First, I want you to solve this problem. So we've got boom, boom, clap, boom, boom, clap. We will rock you. Have any of you ever seen this particular puzzle before? Probably not. But look at what your brain is able to do. No one had to teach you this. Our brains create this incredible web of interrelated content. And this is something you can do without ever having to actually be told or taught what this is about. And this is because humans, and only humans, other species are unable to do this, can relate objects to each other in many, many different ways. So, for example, chair is the same as seat. Black is the opposite of white. So this is called a frame of coordination, a frame of opposition, but you don't need to remember that stuff. That just gets confusing. Hawaii is further from us than LA, for those of us in the US. If I run, my heart will beat faster. So if then. And so this is exactly what allows us to solve abstract problems like we will rock you. But where we can get stuck psychologically, where our repertoire of behavioral options gets small, is fill in the blank here. Blondes have more fun. Skinny is better than fat. What if a meteor hits Riley's school? Does anybody know what that refers to? You can see in the background. When we were talking about feel-good movies, I love the movie Inside Out because it is such an act-consistent movie. It is brilliant. And if you've seen that movie, then you know that the purple guy, anxiety, or maybe he's fear. Technically, he's really anxiety. He was misnamed if he was fear. When Riley is about to have her first day in a new school, that character comes up with like every potential bad thing that could possibly go wrong, including a meteor hitting Riley's school, even though Riley has never had a meteor hit her school. We don't have to have had something happen to us in order for our brains to think in this way. And so in your own experience or the experience of your clients, you can kind of fill in the blank. Like if I blank, then blank might happen. I mean, it's not that. If I give this talk, everyone might think I'm boring and incompetent. If I share the personal stuff about myself, they might judge me negatively or reject me, or I might feel humiliated, right? This is what brains do. When we listen to those rules, assumptions, judgments, predictions, etc., in the absence of personal experience, it can sometimes pull us away from choosing to live in line with our values. So that's psychological inflexibility. Okay. Now, what I just taught you is basically the basics of the theory beneath acceptance commitment therapy, which is called RFT, or relational frame theory. So we relate these different frames of coordination, frames of opposition. That's just what this was. We relate these things to each other in ways that can create psychological inflexibility. The philosophy of science that underlies relational frame theory and acceptance commitment therapy is called functional contextualism. And all this is, you can read all those words on this slide, but what we're really saying is that in ACT, what we really want to understand, there's no right or wrong here. There's no like absolute truth criterion. We simply want to seek to understand the function of behavior. What is our behavior getting us within a specific context? So let's talk about that. Let's talk about a number of different behaviors and what the function of those behaviors might be. So look at these: procrastination, the opposite of that, overworking, over-preparing, situational avoidance, maybe avoiding social situations or difficult conversations, compulsive or impulsive behavior, people-pleasing, reassurance-seeking. If you think about the function of these, and so what do I mean by that? If you procrastinate, what does it get you? Like, can we all agree procrastination is generally bad, for lack of a better word? Like, and yet we all do it. And there is a reason, there is a function, because in the moment you give yourself permission to put off an aversive task till tomorrow, What do you get? Throw it in the chat. What do you get? Oh, I really don't feel like creating these slides or preparing for this session or doing this homework, whatever it may be. Relief. That's exactly right, Joe. We get relief. And if you look at all of these, they have something in common, right? If I keep working and working and working, because maybe I feel like I'm inadequate or incompetent, and I work and work and work, then I can avoid some of the anxiety that I have. If I over prepare, I'm avoiding the anxiety I have that maybe I'll be like caught off guard and not know what I'm doing. If I'm nervous to go to a party and I avoid the party, I get relief. I don't feel anxious, right? So you can see how every single one of these examples gets us something. They all have a function. Now, we might look at all of these and think, yeah, these are bad. These are all problematic kinds of behaviors. And in most cases, they may be. We get lots of other things done that are easier. So check off lots of list items. Oh, don't you love checking off a list? Talk about relief, that like maybe there's more than relief. There's like a dopamine surge that you get when you check things off a to-do list. Absolutely. And so the question is, are these behaviors bad? All behaviors have a function. What I like to say is it works or we wouldn't do it. Everything we do works. And there's a lot here that I did not put on this list. You know, drinking alcohol, gambling, sex, shopping. Maybe you guys can think of a few others that I don't have listed on here, but they all get us something. So then the question is this problematic? And what do you think the answer to that is? The answer to most things, I'll give you a hint. The answer to most things in ACT, when someone says like, is this good or bad? The answer is always going to be the same. And it's true in other therapies. If I said to you, should you hug your clients? Should you disclose to your clients? Like, what's the answer always? Does anyone want to try to throw that in the chat? It depends. Yes, Randy, thank you. Yes, Courtney, thank you. It depends. And so in ACT, what it depends on is whether the behavior has a cost. And typically that cost is related to values. Okay. So if let's say I have these slides that I had to make for this talk, and I decide I don't know, 2 months ago that I'm going to put it off for another week, and they're not due for 3 weeks. Is that a problem? Probably not, unless I have so many other things to do, I'm not going to be able to get them done in time, but probably not. If I decide to put it off because my little boy has come to the door and wants me to play heads up with him, then not only is it there's not a cost, but it's also that I'm choosing to do something that's more in line with my values. Let's look at this last item, yoga. So if I am feeling stressed, tense, anxious, and I go to yoga, well before the end of the class, I don't feel that way anymore, right? I get that relief. So actually, let me back up for a second. All of these are examples of what we would call in ACT experiential avoidance. So I need to define that for you. Experiential avoidance is anything that you do or don't do to try to control or change the way that you feel on the inside. Okay, so all of these are examples of experiential avoidance, including yoga. For most of us, if we do yoga, it changes how we feel on the inside. Is it bad? It depends. So if I usually go to yoga in the morning after my kids have already gone to school. I have the time, I can afford the classes, it's good for my body. In which case, it sounds like there's not really any cost, right? But if I'm so unwilling to feel any tension or anxiety that I'm going to yoga every single night from like 5 to 7, and that's the only time I typically get to spend with my family, and my family matters to me, now this is an example of experiential avoidance that has a cost. Okay. If you, let's say I had a headache before coming to talk to you today, and I take Advil or Tylenol, is that an example of experiential avoidance? Does that change how I feel on the inside? Yes. Is it bad? It depends. Typically, if you take Advil or Tylenol occasionally, it doesn't damage your stomach or your liver, respectively. And if anything, taking my headache away might make it easier for me to really be present and to think straight while I'm with you, which is values consistent for me. So that doesn't have a cost. Now, if I am so unwilling to feel any kind of pain, and, as a middle aged lady, something always hurts, that I'm taking like, 10 Tylenol every single day and I'm getting rebound headaches and it's hurting my liver, now it has a cost. So the answer is always it depends. When it comes to experiential avoidance, is this bad? It depends. But we always want to know what's the function.